Hello and welcome back to coverage of Grand Prix Oakland. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Eduardo Sejgalik, and let's kick things off with Matt Nass versus Garth Draculis. And Matt, boy, he's been here before, and I mean really here before. Back in 2010, Matt kind of burst onto the scene, and he won what was then his local GP, if you will, GP Oakland here in this building, I believe. He won it with Elves back then.
Combo lover, aficionado.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah.
And he is back. Matt Nass has absolutely defined this deck. He has popularized it, put it on the map in many ways, though it was a thing before he found it. But still, nobody's had the level of success with KCI that Matt Nass has. Coming into the tournament, his match win percentage with it, if you cut out buys and if you cut out draws, was 91%.
90.1 at the start of the day, yeah.
Unbelievable, especially in a format as diverse as Modern, where it's often the case that if you just get your bad matchup, it doesn't work. Oh, look at this hardened scales now from Garth.
Yeah, but here I noticed that Garth mulliganed to 5, as well as Llanowar Reborn is kind of a nice piece of technology in the deck, but Garth missing the land drop is falling way too far behind in what is normally game one an unfavorable matchup. I didn't want to take, we'll take the time to explain Garth's version since it's a bit different. Plays 3 copies of Llanowar Reborn and 4 copies of Metallic Mimic. Kind of a hedge against Seal Overseer, I believe. As well as, an infinite loop.
And you name Construct with it. It seems
yes.
There's Metallic Mimic on it.
It's very good with animation module.
So he needs something to get going next turn, and off a mulligan to 5, that could be difficult to do. In the meantime, Matt Nass seems unimpeded thus far. I assume that this hardened scales Affinity deck isn't going to be presenting much in the way of interaction with what Matt Nass is doing.
Not for game one. The quickest route to victory for the hardened scales deck versus Clarkland Ironworks game one is generally an Inkmoth Nexus, but without that land, Garth missing a land drop, this is going to be a really difficult game. Of course, now that Garth has Metallic Mimic, Garth could really go overboard, but here Engineered Explosives dealing with hardened scales is going to be that much harder. One of the key interactions with Metallic Mimic, though, that's really nice as well, is you can have Metallic Mimic and then play Walking Ballista for 0.
Oh, and it actually just picks up the counter.
For Metallic Mimic, yeah.
Cool.
Now you know what's even nicer? With hardened scales, that's 2.
Oh, that's really good.
So like you can go, that draw with hardened scales, you could then go a Ballista for X equals 0 and then have 2 counters on it. Right away.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And then you move the counter from Llanowar Reborn, so it's 4.
Okay.
So you could have added turn 2 with, so you can have that. It's pretty nice.
Decent. In the meantime, Matt Nass actually just uses his Engineered Explosives here to take down any 1-mana cards on the battlefield. That included, of course, hardened scales itself. That reduces the explosiveness factor for Garth, right? That is a type of thing where Matt's looking at it and saying, I don't have the combo assembled yet, right? He's not ready to go off, and he knows he's going to need a few more turns to do it. So what's the way that I lose? Well, I let that hardened scale sit on the battlefield, and Garth just does some silly stuff with it because that card gets really silly really quick. And as it turns out, would have had a pretty nice turn here. Here's Arcbound Ravager now from Garth. It comes in with an additional counter since it's a, what is it, a beast construct?
It's not a, it is, it might be a beast construct. I will check. The original printing did not have a creature type.
Yes, it just said artifact creature. In fact, I think that is the original printing there. You can see not a lot of words.
What's kind of nice, though, about this turn from Garth isn't so much that Arcbound Ravager, although it is important, but really that Inkmoth Nexus.
Chat says it's not a construct, just beast.
Just beast?
Thank you, Andy, for bringing up.
Yes, of course, because Llanowar Reborn is how you boost it up.
Right, there you go. I feel like it should be a beast construct for what it's worth. That's my opinion.
It's a constructed beast.
Yeah, see, you get it. That's exactly what it is.
Fair enough.
Now, how are we looking here, though, Eduardo? Zoom us out a little bit. Matt Nass still trying to set up his combo, get that 4th mana on the battlefield, and get a KCI on the battlefield as well. And then really he needs a little bit more going on to really start to go off. How's he looking right now?
Honestly, I think it is actually as simple as having a Clarkland Ironworks. If Matt gets that on the table, between the Darksteel Citadel and the Mindstone, that's going to be enough mana to unload the Acre Wellsprings in hand, and then Matt can really start drawing cards, generating mana, go through the deck until you get a Scrap Trawler and continue. And there's not much that Garf can do outside of trying to get a Walking Ballista down. By the way, I had the chance to play Llanowar Reborn in the Hardened Scales deck at Grand Prix Liverpool, and that interaction with Llanowar Reborn and Walking Ballista is really nice. It's a good way to deal with the opposing board. But anyways, here, Matt is just going to develop with Ichor Wellspring, trying to set up, you know, not just getting the Clarkland Hours, but having a number of artifacts in play that can be sacrificed in order to generate mana. If Matt tapped out, this Inkmoth Nexus might be dangerous. This is just going to be... Yeah.
So it's, it's going to be a 2-turn clock then?
Yeah, Garf deciding that the best way to win this game is just to make Inkmoth Nexus a 5/5 and attack Matt Nass twice. And I definitely agree with Garf. Garf, being low on resources, has found the one way to victory and is hoping that Matt cannot draw into Clarkland Ironworks. And I think just found really the line here. You essentially have to put pressure, and this is the best pressure that Garf can do. It's difficult for Matt to deal with Inkmoth Nexus. Engineered Explosive doesn't destroy lands. Right. Of course it can't, because that would make the card incredible. But there's not really much that Matt can do to interact with this Inkmoth Nexus in game one.
This is kind of KCI or bust here for Matt Nass.
There is one other out that would be really powerful. If Matt draws Psi Master Thopterist, then you could play a 1-mana artifact as well. But here, and that's why you see Matt floating blue mana. Matt was definitely considering Psi Master Thopterist as an out. But here, I just don't think there's a card left in Matt Nass's deck to come back. There's not enough mana to play a Clarkline Ironworks. Well,
right.
There would be, but Matt just doesn't have it.
And he's just going to scoop him up, and Garth Dracolis off of that mulligan just picks up the win. Wow, look at that sigh of relief from him, and Matt Nass says, that's not how that was supposed to go. Yeah. If you're just joining us, we have 4 copies of KCI in the top 8 here in Oakland, and interestingly, they're evenly distributed. There's no mirrors in this quarterfinal. Every single one is KCI versus something else.
At least there are 4 different matchups that way.
That's true.
we have 4 different matchups.
They're paired by seed, so it's not like we don't choose, but that just ended up being how it was, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I mean, we said earlier, you know, like what should you play if you want to beat Clarkland Ironworks? I mentioned Blue-Black Mill. A deck that we kind of, you know, earlier alluded to and didn't look so good on camera because it was against Is It Phoenix was Infect. Infect is definitely the deck if you want to slay Clarkland Ironworks. Quick clock, disruption, exactly what you want.
Yeah, totally. But nobody's playing Infect anymore.
It's pretty hard when the rest of the field is playing Lightning Bolt.
Yes.
But yeah, here we're going to take a look at the sideboards. Both players boarding in 4 4 Nature's Claim.
1 mana Vindicate.
Yeah, it doesn't get a land, of course, but still a pretty important card. Both, you know, it's one of the best cards in these kind of Mox Opal mirrors, so both players are definitely boarding in all 4 Nature's Claim.
I mean, this is just a mirror match, right? This is just Mox Opal, Ancient Stirring's mirror.
Well, we're looking at different plans, right? Like Damping
Are they? I don't know.
Damping Sphere hurts one deck more than the other.
That is definitely the case.
Yeah. So we're probably going to see Garf board in 4 Nature's Claim, free Damping Sphere. Pivy Needle is interesting, but probably won't happen. It is good against a card like Engineered Explosive, but that's kind of it. So we might see a copy, depending what Garf can sideboard out. But that's kind of it. I don't think this member comes in. It does deal with Scrap Trawler, but you don't want to bring in too many cards as the Hardened Skills Affinity player. I think this member might still come in just because Psi Master Thopterist is otherwise an issue. And Psi from Matt Nass is going to be that key sideboard card along with Nature's Claim. Being able to play a Psi Master Thopterist, make a bunch of flying blockers is going to be really important against the Hardened Skills Affinities deck plan. since after all, Inkmoth Nexus is one of the easiest routes to victory, and Sai really shuts that down efficiently. At that point, Garf has to make a large number of creatures to get through, and a large number of counters are Arcbound Ravager to deal, the natural 20 damage. So at that point, Sai, along with Nature's Claim, is essentially going to be Madnass's plan. Try to draw to one of those key cards, Sai Master Fropterus, while Clarkline Ironworks remains, the key plan. We might also see Lightning Bolts come in. It does deal with Metallic Mimic, but I don't think this is a matchup where you board all 4. Matt, I don't believe that the Clarkline Ironworks deck can sideboard out too many cards, so you still have to keep, on plan. I'm also checking here. But yeah. The strangest card in Madnass's sideboard, but we won't see it, is Swansong. Countering instant sorceries and enchantments. Garf going for creatures and artifacts, so we're missing those types. Also, giving a free 2/2 flyer is actually relevant in a deck like this.
All right, we are getting set again, and looks like another mulligan here for Garth and a keep from Matt Nass. Game number 2 incoming.
I mean, Garf won on a mulligan to 5 in game 1.
That was impressive.
Yeah. Inkmoth Nexus.
You mentioned actually on turn 1 that Inkmoth Nexus was usually the way to get that done. Now, that plan didn't look like it was in sight at the moment, but he did end up piecing it together.
Well, he drew Inkmoth Nexus. That was the important part.
Yes, that was the part I was referencing when I said he pieced it together.
Oh,
yes.
yeah, that's how we piece things together, right?
I mean, you have to draw it, right? Like, still magic.
Yeah, that's fair. No, but yeah, that was the plan. You're hoping for the best, and you got there.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think here Garf is just going to make the deck lean, like all the cards that are a little slower, something like Hangerback Walker, Animation Model, Phronograph. These cards are likely to come out for these interaction pieces and trying to still go for, although we see Hangerback Walker, it's really hard to board out too many cards from the Hardened Scales Affinity deck. You still need every card synergizes off the other.
Yeah, it's interesting because almost all of these cards are underpowered on their own.
Yeah.
Right?
It's worth noting that Hardened Scales is a lot worse post-sideboard because both players are boarding in 4 copies of Nature's Claim. So instead of targeting an artifact, Matt Nass can just decide to target Hardened Scales, and that can shut down a lot of cards from Garf.
Oh, sure. All right, well, we're underway here in game number 2. Matt Nass has his weapon of choice for the last half a year or so in his hands, and he has been pretty unstoppable with it. Another top 8 for him.
It's a good going.
But he's down a game. So he's got some work to do. Welding jar for Garth.
Garf scryed on top of Nature's Claim. Nature's Claim is the best interactive card in the matchup. You'd probably play up to 8 to 10 copies. If you could, you only have access to 4 though, so that's what you get to play with. But Garf keeps it on top. It is definitely one of the most important cards, especially on the draw. It means that Matt has to respect the potential Nature's Claim and might have to go a turn slower.
Sometimes that turn, of course, is the difference. Hangerback Walker off the top and onto the battlefield. Just a 1/1.
Garf deciding here to tap out for Hangerback Walker, just hoping that Matt Nass does not have a Clarkline Ironworks in hand.
Boy, playing with fire potentially.
I mean, sometimes you just don't have a choice. Garf may not have the option. Otherwise, all these cards might be dead, especially if Garf only has access to 2 lands. I definitely understand the need to play the Hangerback Walker here in order to give yourself the best chance, because that Inventor's Fair in play means that if Garf gives enough time to Matt Nass, Matt will eventually get there anyways. So you have to put some pressure, and Hangerback Walker allows you to essentially, play a card and keep passing the turn while building up a threat. We could also see a really cool interaction with Hangerback Walker, Metallic Mimic, and Nature's Claim, or for Ixis Core, where if you go Metallic Mimic naming Fopter, and then you destroy your Hangerback Walker, you get a bunch of 2/2 Fopters.
Oh, that's insane. Yeah, that could be a 1-turn clock easily. All right, well, Matt decided to crack the Terrarium there, perhaps digging for the Clarkline Ironworks, but he did not find one. So he's going to have to settle for Scrappy T Scrap Trawler instead. Ooh, sideboard off the top there. Damping Sphere.
Damping Sphere is...
Is it too late?
I mean, it's a card people bring in that people are playing just because it hits a lot of different decks. Tron is one of the ones hit the hardest by it. Clarkline Ironworks tend to be hit a bit less. It's possible to overpay 1 or 2 mana, and then down the stretch you can engineer the explosives. It's worth noting one of the rules interactions that's going to be important with Damping Sphere is engineered explosives can be cast for 0. Then Damping Sphere might check that it costs a little more mana. So let's say 1 or 2. And then let's say it's 2. Then you
because you need it to be on 2 to kill the sphere itself, right? That's what you're going for. Okay.
Right, but the engineered explosive in Matt Nass's hand, what can happen is Matt can play a few other spells that Matt would prefer aren't more expensive. Then announce engineered explosives for 0. Then Garth's Damping Sphere goes, well, you have to pay 1 or 2 more. So let's say 2 more. Then Matt Nass goes, okay, I'll pay 2 more. There's 2 callers, so this has 2 counters.
Oh, that is really nice. Sunburst doesn't care.
Sunburst only cares about the colors of mana used on the spell. You can play Engineered Explosives for 1 million. It doesn't go for beyond 5 counters.
Well, not yet anyway. You don't know.
Yeah.
Neither of us work in R&D. Anything could happen.
Yeah. But yeah, Ancient Stirrings here. Garth probably looking for a land, because the lack of a land is really hurting Garth's development, and that's what that's what I talked about was Hangerback Walker came down specifically because Garth did not have a land. Understood that, well, I'm stuck on 2 mana anyways, so I kind of have to play this Hangerback Walker and try to build that up. Deciding also to tap out for Damping Sphere since it was unlikely that Matt would go for something like Clarkline Ironworks plus have a solution for Damping Sphere. Especially since Garth knows that Matt Nass did not have Clarkline Ironworks next turn. But Garth, with Inventor's Fair up, knows that this is coming. Welding Jar on Damping Sphere might be quite relevant here as
right,
well.
I was going to say that Garth has a very annoying particular configuration of permanents for Matt Nass to chew through before he can just cleanly do what he wants to do. That said, Matt's at 22, and Garth has put a grand total of 1 power on the battlefield thus far, so you have to figure that Matt has some time to kind of work his way through those problem permanents, right?
Yeah, Matt can draw cards. There's a lot of mana able to be generated because of these Darksteel Citadels. So Matt can just go for Clarkline Ironworks, but Garth has access to Nature's Claim. I'm still going to give Matt the edge just because Garth is not putting on a clock.
Right.
And that's important. The Disruption Bard is fine, but without a clock, it's going to be trivial for Matt Nass to just fight through this hate.
Looks like he's going to go for the explosives now and get that on the battlefield.
You know what's one beautiful interaction between Engineered Explosives and the board right now?
I see the Ichor Wellspring sitting there.
Yeah, so with the Scrap Trawler in play, Matt could just blow up the explosives, and then the Wellspring that will also die will get back Engineered Explosives, allowing Matt to set up a 1-2 punch of Engineered Explosives, getting rid of that Damping Sphere through Welding Jar.
That is really nice. Also, he gets a card.
Yeah.
Don't forget my value now.
Oh, the value's important.
Yeah.
Arcbound Ravager. Well, with explosives on 2, that's maybe not the best permanent to have in play at the moment. I'm actually surprised.
I'm a little surprised to see that hit. And Matt Nass, you see him almost like pause here, like, well, I'm going to pop explosives.
Yeah. I mean, Garth definitely has the Welding Jar or Damping Sphere. Garth knows about the Clarkline Ironworks here. There's not really an opportunity. Well, I mean, there's a good rationale for playing Ravager here would be to try to put the counters on Inkmoth Nexus. But with Garth being low on mana, that's not really an option. Something else Garth is now considering is trying to have a larger Thopter by sacrificing the Hangerback Walker here.
Just make a big flyer?
Seems like Garth is just going for Inkmoth Nexus, but
does he not see the Scrap Trawler thing that you mentioned?
It's possible.
Like that Matt just gets to get back explosives?
Yeah, Matt essentially has Wellspring go to the graveyard. He can get back Engineered Explosives. Then on Matt's turn, you play Clarkline Ironworks. Garth is tapped out.
Now, so he did end up putting them all on the Ink Moth.
But I mean, it's over. Matt with Garth tapped out. I mean, there's an option where Matt just doesn't draw anything. But with Garth tapped out, Matt can go for Clarkline Ironworks here.
Then what happens, though? Because he still has to deal with the Damping Sphere, right?
Yeah, so you can play Explosives for 2, which is actually easier said than done. Matt Nass does not have 2 colors of mana, but just playing a land drop does the trick. Since Matt could tap this Buried Root exactly like this, then you have Forest and Mox Opal up.
Yes.
So you go for Ironworks here. Then your Explosives cost 1 more, thanks to that Damping Sphere. So you just announce it for X equals 1 and then pay 2. Then it comes into play. You sacrifice, let's say, a Darksteel Citadel. Or actually, the Mox Opal is better here since it's going to die to Engineering Explosives anyways. And then, yeah, now that's done. And Matt can sacrifice the Citadel and, yeah, have fun. Oh, and there's a Mox Opal with a Psy.
Yeah, another Mox Opal as well.
Yeah, Matt
Sacrifice
Nass.
that, and here goes the engine. Matt Nass is in full gear. You can see how quickly he's moving through. There's Master Thopterist as well. Garth is going to give it a quick double check, but KCI is in the driver's seat at this point.
That interaction between Engineered Explosives and Damping Sphere is just really tragic for the Damping Sphere player.
It really is. I mean, in 2 turn cycles, or 1 full turn cycle, Matt Nass is able to just simply kill it through a welding jar and set himself up to combo off, which is exactly what he's setting himself up to do right now. He's going to sacrifice the Scrap Trawler, and Garth says, yep, you're good. Let's move on to game number 3. Can Matt Nass, the once hometown hero, he now lives in Denver, defend his home turf here with the, remember, he won GP Oakland back in 2010, and he'd like to do so again with his KCI, his beloved KCI deck, at least beloved by him. Garth Draculis, though, really has a cool take on the Hardened Scales Affinity deck with the Mimics in there.
Yeah,
and he's giving him a fight.
I like the Mimics. I'll be honest, I don't want to assume too much, but I haven't seen Garth play a Ballista for 0 with a Metallic Mimic in play, so I was double checking that interaction because I wasn't sure, right? And it seems, and maybe chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Metallic Mimic on Construct means that if you play Ballista for 0, it would come with a counter. It's a replacement effect. So that'll probably get checked. But essentially then with Hardened Scales, it powers up and all that stuff. But I haven't seen Garth do this in positions where it was possible and probably advisable. So I don't know if Garth is aware of that interaction. But if you're going to play the Hardened Scales deck, that is a really nice piece of technology, and it's also a way to fight Stony Silence, having Metallic Mimic. Steel Overseer is better on its own over time, but Metallic Mimic kind of gives you value right away.
Chat gives you the thumbs up. You have been greenlit to play your Ballista for 0 with your Metallic Mimic out.
I mean, I'm allowed. Is it good?
It is good. it
good.
Works the way you want.
Sure.
Said, yeah.
Llanowar Reborn is also a really nice inclusion.
Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah.
I like that too.
I'm trying to remember. I believe there was a nice interaction with animation module with it, but there's a lot of sweet little interactions in the Hardened Scales deck. It is a beautiful deck. Not quite as lovely as Clarkline Ironworks, of course. But yes, with animation module, by the way, one cool interaction with Llanowar Reborn, you can pay free mana to add a +1/+1 counter to Llanowar Reborn.
To the land?
And then because you do that, the animation module triggers, so you can pay 1 to make a servo.
Okay, so 4 mana to get a counter and a servo. That's kind of standard issue.
But then it gets a counter, so you can pay 1 to get another servo if you graft it.
Oh, that's sweet.
So with the Llanowar Reborn, the grindiest game,
have?
if you have animation module and Llanowar Reborn, you can just make an army over time.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is really sweet, actually. Where did Garth's list go here? What is going on? Do you see his deck?
His deck is being checked by the judge.
Oh, okay. They're just checking the sleeves or something. All right, well, they're going to pull Garth away from the table, so we get to hang out with Matt Nass for a little bit. Hi, Matt. How you been, buddy? Good, good. Yeah, me too. Yeah, another top 8. Great work.
It's good stuff.
He's listening intently to the judge call here.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else you can do. Matt just has his hand, already knows what he's about to perform, and is just going to wait for this to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that Matt doesn't pay a whole lot of attention to what his opponent's doing anyway. He's playing KCI.
I think there was some attention. That engineered explosives clearly cared.
Eduardo, that was a joke. You're not.
Yeah.
Don't take me seriously
No.
on that one, please.
You know what's the worst part?
What's that?
Damping Sphere didn't make anything cost more in that game.
It never did it?
No, you had to play the explosives, but it wasn't like Matt overpaid any mana at any point.
So brutal. All right, Garth is back. He's shuffling, but I assume he's on a mull here, right? Did he ever present in the first place?
I'm not. I'll be honest. I am not sure.
Let's find out.
Garth has mulliganed a lot in this match.
Yeah, I wonder if that's typical for the Hardened Scales deck.
Not usually.
You can just keep most of it.
It's like it's about median on the mulligan scale. There's a lot of. I think in a matchup like this, cards have very disparate value. So a card without interaction that's slow is definitely. A hand without interaction that's slow is definitely something you'll mulligan. You're looking for Inkmoth Nexus, Nature's Claim, especially on the play Inkmoth. So I see Hardened Scales, Inkmoth Nexus, Arcbound Ravager. Keep.
That's all you needed to know.
Well, there's a green source too. That's kind of needed.
A couple of lands too, yeah. So he is on 7 cards here.
The sequencing is going to be the hardest part of this game, since I'm trying to check the land in the back. Oh, it's a Horizon Canopy, I believe. So a Canopy is nice since it's, untap land. You can get Hardened Scales. Then you can play Inkmoth Nexus, Arcbound Ravager. If you're worried about Nature's Claim, you can also lead off with something else.
So Garth has kept it. It looks like Matt's actually going down to 6 here. How bad is it to mull in KCI?
Not so much. It's really about having your key card. Post sideboard as well, your opponent is likely to have interaction, or if there's no interaction, extremely fast hand. So the deck mulligans, though, pretty well. Again, the cards have disparate value. Something like Psy Master Foptress can really dominate a game without the need for Matt to really fully combo with a Clark Line Ironworks. And when the Ironworks comes, the game ends. But the Psy Master Foptress is a really good second plan. And here you see Matt Nass with a Nature's Claim. That'll be a nice little answer to the Hardened Scales.
Matt Nass, wow, he actually had the card on the bottom and decided, you know what, I actually want that one. There's Hardened Scales on turn 1 off of Horizon Canopy. Pass turn back to you.
I love the little interaction that's going on between Horizon Canopy and Grove of the Burn Willows. I'll lose life. Oh, you're making me gain life.
Yeah, no problem. Break even. Though one person has a card at the end of that transaction.
That Future Sight cycle had a slightly different power level across the lands.
Yes.
Imagine a cycle with the Horizon Canopy ability.
I mean, what do you mean? They're exactly the same. One loses life, one gains life. What's the problem?
All the same.
Yeah, it's all the same. All right, here's Arcbound Ravager. Matt Nass, though, does not use the Nature's Claim right away.
No.
So he does, though. I'm sure he's verbalizing, I want to do that with the Arcbound Ravager on the stack.
Yep.
And that way the Ravager comes in with just a single counter and Nature's Claim resolved. So Hardened Scales off the battlefield. And what's next here for Nass? Well, he's going to lead off with Ancient Stirrings, perhaps digging for another land or a combo piece.
Well, looking at this, it really depends on Matt's hand for the Ancient Stirrings. Can't take the Psy, but the Engineered Explosive does a good job of dealing with everything but this Inkmoth Nexus. Wow. Matt was looking for a land and not hit.
Missed lands? After playing Ancient Stirrings, he didn't see a single land in that whole hit? Oh, no.
That is a big miss on Matt's side. I mean, one-landers are totally fine with Ancient Stirrings.
Totally.
But missing a land drop is big game.
So here's a big question. Can Garth capitalize on this? Because Matt, if he continues to miss land drops, then Garth will be able to win quite easily. But let's say Matt rips a couple of lands in a row or has another Ancient Stirrings or something like that. Is there a way right now for Garth to start slamming the door on this game? He has another Arcbound Ravager. That really isn't a way to do that just yet.
No, and Garth is missing a land drop too, so a land for Matt would have been good enough to go Engineered Explosives if it was a collared mana source. But again, Matt missing on mana and trying to figure out whether to keep up Nature's Claim in hand or play a Chromatic Sphere with the plan of cracking it next turn.
Just to try to dig.
Yeah, I think this turn Matt is better off, playing the Chromatic Sphere and trying to set up for future turns. Matt is not winning a game without mana.
Right, and if he misses a land drop next turn, I mean,
It's looking bad.
we're pretty close to being done here.
Well, to be fair, Garth isn't presenting that fast a clock. Double Arcbound, like the second Arcbound Ravager certainly has less value, but Matt here deciding, I want to fire off probably this Nature's Claim. And Garth is going to put Matt on either Lightning Bolt or Nature's Claim here.
Right.
There's not really a reason for Matt to pass unless the hand is truly awful.
Is this another Ravager? No, this one's a Hangerback Walker. All right.
The Hangerback Walker with 2 Ravagers is actually pretty nice because you can use 1 Ravager to move counters to it and the second one to sacrifice it.
And it looks like Garth is going to go for diversity here.
Decides to sacrifice. The shortcut here was that Garth decided to sacrifice the Hangerback Walker to 1 Ravager and then a Fopter to the other.
So he's attacking with a couple of 2/2s now. And Matt just says, well, how about we combine forces here.
This makes the Arcbound Ravager a 5/5. I would believe Matt has a third Nature's Claim in hand if this is the line. This line really only makes sense with third Nature's
that's
Claim.
exactly what he had. Now, he's got his board down to absolutely nothing, but Matt is still missing that second land. And let's be realistic, he needs third and fourth land here, too. Second land isn't enough on its own for this deck. He needs to start chaining cards together. The real question now is Garth has been stuck on 2 mana forever, and can he put out a threat? Kind of. Metallic Mimic, but I mean, on this board, it's just a 2/1. So land here for Matt?
I'm looking. It looks like Mox Opal was the draw. Yes, it looks like a Mox Opal.
No, that's not going to do it either. He can play an artifact and play that, but he's still 1 short from tapping it for mana currently.
It doesn't do much now, but Mox Opal is actually really powerful when you can go for an Engineered Explosive for 0.
He can tap it now.
Yeah.
Okay. And look at this. He can use the Pyrite Spell Bomb on the hidden mode. Just kill creature with it. Usually it acts as his win condition, and it might even do that this game. But in the meantime, he is fighting the fight. There's another Metallic Mimic, probably naming Construct, pass a turn back to Matt, and he finds another Nature's Claim.
Yeah, but not another land.
Yeah.
To be fair, Matt can go for Chromatic Sphere here.
Oh, and
anyways.
you know what? I was wrong. That was Ancient Stirrings.
Oh, that was drawn?
I believe so. Yeah. I thought it was Nature's Claim, but I think it was
Yes,
actually
it's
Ancient
Ancient
Stirrings.
Stirrings,
Yeah.
That's still not able to draw a land.
But he has a green floating, so let's see if he can hit one off of this Ancient Stirrings. He has to here. Oh, my. Okay, there it is.
They're there.
Jeez, I thought maybe he boarded them all out for a second. 3 in a row with nothing, but the last 2 were Yavimaya Coast, and he finds one and plays it. Are things starting to shape up for Matt Nass now?
I mean, Matt has done a very good job of being defensive. Garth is only able to deploy 1 threat a turn, and it wasn't the best threat.
No.
With Hardened Scales being out.
I mean, look at his graveyard. It's just littered with creatures. There's another Arcbound Ravager.
This time we have Beast.
It did name Beast, yeah, not Construct, as I had mentioned before. So that means that the Ravager picks up an additional counter and could start getting out of hand. Though, again, this is pretty fair mode here so far for Garth. This is the 3rd Arcbound Ravager to hit the battlefield, but the Hardened Scales has been in the graveyard since turn 2.
Matt had Clark Klein Ironworks. A land here might have been lights out.
But he didn't hit one?
No.
But realistically, he's not dying next turn, right?
That is true. And Matt has access to Scrap Trawler, although probably wondering whether or not to run it out here. There's not really anything that Matt can get from the graveyard. I mean, if you popped Explosives and Mox Opal went away, then yes, you could get it. Mox Opal back with Terrarian, but...
Is the risk that you're exposing it?
Yes, exactly.
As a combo piece?
There's 2 things you're worried about on the exposure. Either Walking Ballista or a Nature's Claim.
Yeah.
But it is setting up. It is forcing Garth to answer it and respect it. Matt is also worried about this Inkmoth Nexus with Arcbound Ravager.
Yes, that is a scary combo that he lost to already this match in game number 1.
Right now, Garth can attack in with a 5/5 Inkmoth Nexus if Garth decided to go all in on it. But it would normally be very risky. But with Matt Nass having played free Nature's Claim, it may be less risky than normal.
Sure. And he does, in fact, run out the Scrap Trawler. Matt kind of all in on finding a land next turn and trying to go off from there.
I think that Welding Jar from Garth is going to incentivize Garth to go in with the Inkmoth Nexus. Since Matt could have another way to destroy it, But then again, Welding Jar easily answered by these engineered explosives, although you can do a little cool thing where Welding Jar regenerates the other.
Oh, sure. So you do keep one of them.
Unfortunately, I think that's not possible, since to have 4 counters, Garth is going to have to sacrifice one of these Welding Jars.
I see.
So Ravager
because he
at
needs
2.
4 counters on the Nexus to make it a 2-turn
Yes.
clock. So that's what he's going to try to set up here. So sacrifice
Yes.
one of the jars. That's up to 3.
4.
4. Send it over.
Yeah. I mean, Matt is in trouble.
He is, but with a land here, he can play Karklan Ironworks and
Actually,
start to get things rolling.
I put the advantage back in the middle, but this draw step is
here we go.
super huge.
Can Matt find a land and give himself a chance? He has not found
Land,
lands.
Mana Source.
It
Darkseal
was.
set it out perfect.
Darkseal set it all off the top, and he windmills it on the table. All of a sudden, Matt Nass is right back in this, and all Garth can do is stare on helplessly, because this is Matt Nass's game to win or lose, and it's going to be up to him this turn. If he can go off, he will advance to the semis. If not, it's going to be Garth moving on.
Matt needs like a 2-mana artifact that draws cards.
Yeah, he needs an Acre Wellspring bad.
Yeah, because there's a lot of mana involved already with Mox Opal.
Yep.
So at this point, it's really, can Matt convert all this into cards? The Terrarian's actually really important.
Yeah, you see a Terrarian there in the yard.
But Matt has access to a Spine of Ishna in hand. So, even though Matt may not be able to go off fully, the Spine of Ishna destroying Inkmoth Nexus,
that is completely takes care of it, right? Especially because Garth has his shields down. The Inkmoth is not an artifact when it's tapped, and Spine of Ishsaw hits the battlefield and mows right through the primary threat, and all of a sudden, Matt Nass has bought himself a lot of time. Look at the board of Garth now. It's Horizon Canopy and a Welding Jar. That's not going to get the job done against Matt Nass at 13 life and 5 poison.
and there's Ichor
And there's an
Wellspring.
Ichor Wellspring, and while that doesn't technically lock it up, that is a huge step in the right direction for the combo master, Matt Nass, the king of KCI.
I can't push the advantage bar further.
No, you maxed it out, much like Matt Nass has maxed out this deck.
Because here, Matt can just leave Garth on no lands, make a bunch of Thopters, and is apparently demonstrating a loop.
He's going to do a Spine of Ishsaw loop.
Yeah, which leaves Garth on no permanence, and Matt with all the Thopters that are necessary.
Master Thopterus creates a Thopter per interaction, and then also makes it so that Spine of Ishsaw blows up his board. And Garth extends a hand. Matt Nass has found it at the last second, and he's going to advance to the semifinals here in Oakland. Congratulations, Matt, and great run, Garth. But you ran into Matt Nass, and nobody stops him when he's got KCI in his hands. We talked about it earlier, but his match record coming in 90.1%.
This morning, yeah.
Unbelievable. And of course, he went X2 in the Swiss portion, and now has won this one as well. So he's clear of that win percentage still. Unbelievable performance as always by Matt Nass with this KCI deck. He just doesn't know how to lose with it. Let's take a look at one of our other KCI matches here. We've got Stephen Haker. He's playing against Eli Cassis. Is it Phoenix? Game number 3. I see 2 copies of Phoenix. How close is the KCI player here, Stephen, to going off on his side? Ichor Wellspring Terrarian. I see no KCI right now. Oh, I might have spoken too soon, Eduardo. There's Ancient Stirrings.
Steven at 4 life really has to get there soon. If Eli has access in hand to a disruption piece, that might be enough to lock it up. Sorry, Steven's at not 4, but 5, probably because of that Inventor's Fair trigger at the beginning of the upkeep.
Mm-hmm. But still, same difference, right? The 2 Arclight Phoenixes are lethal.
Yes, they are. Flying
So
Birds
what did he
of Death.
find? He found Scrap Trawler.
Oh, did he already have it?
Yes, he did. Oh, but look at this. Ceremonious rejection sends it into the seats. And that is Eli Cassis moving on to the semifinals. So we have one of our 4 KCIs moves on. One of our 4 KCIs does not. And we're still finding out about the other 2 currently. And if they're still going, we'll be able to hop over and check in on those right now.
Yeah, and also just a preview of the semifinals. With both winners we've just seen, that's going to be one semifinal. So if you just tuned in to Is It Phoenix versus Clarkline Ironworks, you didn't see much, don't worry. I'm pretty sure you'll see much more in the semis. Wait, this is... Okay.
I thought so too. But it is game number 3 between Alex Olson on blue-white control. He's playing against Sam Black, which, once again, on KCI. Sam looks like he has not had the issue of finding Clarkline Ironworks. In fact, perhaps a little KCI flooded. He has 2 of them on the battlefield right now. And this is a key play. Rest in peace, a problematic permanent from Alex Olson will prevent Sam Black from being able to go off from this point unless he can deal with it.
I like that the Spine of Ishnaw is in the graveyard.
Oh, he actually caught the Spine of Ishsaw?
Yeah, it was probably countered by that Logic Knot.
Nice. Now, on top of this, though, and very critically, Alex has assembled a clock. It looks like he has a bird from Swansong and a Snapcaster Mage, and that's fine. I mean, that is a clock right there. Sam Black is just going to play a Scrap Trawler, but with no graveyard, it's basically a blocker at this point.
It is a free 2 for free mana that can be sacrificed for 2 additional mana.
Yeah, but with nothing
that's
to work
it,
with.
That's it. That was the card.
Yeah, it just makes it difficult with nothing else to work with, right?
Yeah. What I like about this game is it exemplifies the problem with Swansong, which is your control opponent doesn't exactly need much to beat you, and that bird token is totally sufficient. You can then just hang back. But yeah, Sam considering here, having access, though, to Nature's Claim. Figuring out at what point do I... Because I don't think Sam has a route to victory that doesn't involve getting rid of this Rest in Peace. So Sam is just trying to figure out what's the best timing for Nature's Claim and decides to go for Alex's upkeep. And that you see that because Alex doesn't have access to triple blue, so no Cryptic Command here.
Right. And it works. So Sam Black clears away that potential roadblock. But he still doesn't look like he's in great shape at the moment. Alex Olson offers to trade for the Snapcaster Mage on the Scrap Trawler, just thinking, hey, that's a combo piece that you probably need.
Worth noting the Nature's Claim would technically be in the graveyard, but it doesn't really matter here.
Okay.
It's because you destroy the Rest in Peace, which exiles itself to its own replacement effect, then the Nature's Claim resolved. But here, that pressure's good enough.
And that was going to do it. Alex Olson with white-blue control knocks off Sam Black. Wow. Great work for Alex. Sam is a tough customer with an extremely powerful deck, but this one will end with another top 8 finish for Sam Black, and Alex Olson's going to continue on to the semis. The only one that we don't know about is Michael Cochran versus Marshall Jankowski.
I'm going to see if we can get an update on that.
Yeah, if we can, that would be good. But otherwise, we know that Eli Cassis has won with Is It, and he's advanced to play against Matt Nass in the semifinals coming up. And then we've got Alex Olson on blue-white control, and he is either going to play Marshall Jankowski playing Titan Shift, or you guessed it, KCI in the hands of Michael Cochran.
Yeah, we should get an answer soon, anyways.
Yeah, so that is where we're at on that right now. We had 4 KCIs in the top 8, but we are down to 2. Hunter Cochran, Michael Cochran, he won, and that is KCI number 2. So half the field was KCI when we came into the top 8, and that has remained so as well, as 2 of them advance and 2 of them get knocked out.
And still no mirror matches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. So the semis are going to be Eli Cassis playing Is It. He's playing against Matt Nass, who's on KCI, and then Michael Cochran on KCI playing against Blue White and Alex Olson. So cool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that seems good to me. There could still be a KCI mirror in the finals, though.
It's still the potential.
Yeah,
and that would be for us.
That potential.
All the love.
Oh yeah, we have to make a list of our topics to talk about while it's going on. Take a look at our bracket here, and you'll see these are the ones that I mentioned. The top half of the bracket there is interesting one to me. That is the Is It deck in the hands of Eli Cassis. He's playing the Arclight Phoenix deck.
Yeah,
the way to put that one. So
if he gets to the finals.
Oh, we know what'll happen.
Yeah,
don't worry.
fine.
All right, we're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, though, the players are going to be setting up for the semis, and it'll be Maria and Reed to bring you that. Don't go anywhere.